You bound me? You actually bound me?
I had no choice, Alhaji.
No choice. My wife has been sick for 3 weeks, vomiting blood. The doctors can't find anything wrong. My business partner is dead, and you.
What are you talking about?
Look at you. Your skin is rotting off your body. You think I don't see it? You think covering it with makeup makes it invisible?
Hello guys, welcome to my channel where interesting stories of ambition, faith and consequence are told. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, share it with your friends and drop your thoughts in the comment section below. 5 years. That's how long Zainab had been gone from Kano, vanished into the glittering chaos of Abuja with nothing but a borrowed suitcase and desperate dreams. Now she was back, transformed, unrecognizable. Her car, a sleek black Range Rover, sat parked near the mosque entrance, drawing stares like a magnet draws iron filings. "How have you been?" Amina managed, her voice tight. "We heard you were in Abuja." Abuja, Zainab laughed again, that same crystalline sound that felt rehearsed, polished. "Darling, I've been everywhere. Dubai, London, Paris last month. But I came back to see my people, to see you." She reached out and touched Amina's worn hijab with fingers heavy with rings. "Tell me you're not still working at that hospital for peanuts." Amina stiffened. "I'm a nurse. I earn 20,000 naira monthly. It's honest work." 20,000? Zainab's eyes widened with something between pity and amusement. "Amina, that's barely enough for my weekly hair appointment. You're killing yourself for nothing." "It's not nothing," Amina said quietly, her jaw set. "I help people. I pray 5 times daily. I take care of my mother. That's everything." Zainab stepped closer, her perfume overwhelming. "And how's Mama Yusuf? Still sick? Still needing medication you can barely afford?" She didn't wait for an answer. "I built my mother a 4-bedroom house in Asokoro, fully furnished. She doesn't worry about anything anymore." The words landed like stones in Amina's chest. Her mother's medication cost had doubled last month. Just yesterday, Amina had skipped lunch to save money for the pharmacy. She'd prayed tahajjud, begging Allah for provision, for strength, for a miracle that felt increasingly distant. "How did you?" Amina started, then stopped. She knew the answer. Everyone knew what women like Zainab did in Abuja. The whispers followed them like shadows. Ron's girls, they called them. Women who exchanged their dignity for designer bags, who danced with married men for monthly allowances. "How did I what?" Zainab challenged, reading her friend's silence. "How did I stop suffering? How did I stop watching my mother cry over unpaid bills? Simple. I stopped being foolish." She leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Amina, there's a whole world out there. Men with money they don't know what to do with. They're going to spend it on someone. Why not us?" "Zainab, that's haram," Amina breathed, glancing around nervously. "You know what our faith teaches." "Faith?" Zainab's smile turned sad, almost sympathetic. "Faith doesn't pay hospital bills, Amina. Faith doesn't put food on the table or keep the landlord from knocking. I prayed too, for years. And you know what I got? Nothing. Just more poverty, more shame, more watching my mother suffer." She straightened, adjusting her expensive abaya. "Then I met someone who showed me a different way. A woman named Hawa. She changed my life in 6 months." "By doing what?" Amina demanded, her voice rising despite herself. "By being smart, by understanding that this world rewards beauty and boldness, not blind obedience. Look at this. I just transferred 200,000 naira to an orphanage in Kaduna. 200,000, Amina, more than you make in 10 months. Tell me, who is really serving Allah here? The woman who gives 20 naira from her poverty, or the woman who gives hundreds of thousands from her abundance?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Amina wanted to argue, to quote scripture, to explain that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, praised the widow who gave her last 2 coins. But the words stuck in her throat because part of her, a small, hungry, desperate part, wondered if Zainab had a point. "Come to Abuja," Zainab said suddenly, grabbing Amina's hands. "Just for a weekend. Let me show you what life can be. No commitments. Just see it with your own eyes. If you don't like it, you come back to your hospital and your 20,000 naira. But if you do, everything changes." Amina pulled her hands away, stepping back. I can't. I have work. I have my mother. I have responsibilities that are drowning you, Zainab interrupted. I see it in your eyes, Amina. That exhaustion, that quiet desperation. I was there once. She turned toward her car, then paused. I'm at the Transcorp Hilton for 3 days, room 804. Think about it. Pray about it if you want. But remember, Allah helps those who help themselves. She walked away, her heels clicking against the pavement, leaving Amina standing alone in the mosque courtyard. Around her, the evening call to prayer began, the muezzin's voice rising like a question mark against the darkening sky. That night, Amina couldn't sleep. She lay on her thin mattress, listening to her mother's labored breathing in the next room, thinking about Zainab's gleaming car, her confident smile, her casual mention of 200,000 naira. She thought about the pharmacy bills she couldn't pay, about the hospital administrator who'd warned her about taking too many advances on her salary, about the worn-out shoes she'd been meaning to replace for 6 months. She thought about faith and poverty, and the terrible weight of both. And somewhere in the darkness, a door she'd kept locked her entire life began to crack open. Just a little, just enough to let the light, or was it shadow, slip through.
The bus to Abuja left at dawn, and Amina told herself it was just a visit, just 3 days, just to see what Zainab's life looked like, to understand how her old friend had changed so dramatically. Nothing more. She'd left money for her mother's medication with her neighbor, Mariam, and requested emergency leave from the hospital, something she'd never done in 4 years of service. You look nervous, Zainab said, meeting her at the luxury park in Abuja. She was wearing jeans and a loose blouse, her hijab gone, replaced by a silk scarf casually draped around her shoulders. Relax. This weekend is about showing you possibilities, not pressure. The hotel suite took Amina's breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city's glittering skyline. The bathroom alone was larger than her entire apartment in Kano. Zainab ordered room service without looking at prices. Grilled fish, jollof rice, chapman, fresh fruit, and laughed at Amina's wide eyes. Get used to abundance, Zainab said, pouring drinks. Poverty is a mindset before it's a reality. That first evening, they went to a lounge in Maitama, the kind of place Amina had only seen in movies. Soft lighting, live music, leather couches that probably cost more than her annual salary. Men in expensive agbadas and Italian suits filled the space, their laughter loud, their watches catching light like trapped stars. That's Alaji Bello, Zainab whispered, nodding toward the heavy-set man in the corner. Oil and gas, owns 3 companies. See the woman next to him? That's his wife. But the girl on his other side, that's Hawa. She gets 50,000 naira weekly just for showing up and being beautiful. Amina's stomach turned. He's married. They're all married, darling. Zainab's voice was matter of fact, like discussing the weather. Our business is simple. Look good, be charming, make them feel young and important, collect our blessings. No one gets hurt. Their wives live in big houses, drive nice cars, and look the other way. It's an arrangement. An arrangement built on lies, Amina muttered. An arrangement built on reality, Zainab corrected. These men have money burning holes in their pockets. They're going to spend it on someone. Why not us? Why should we suffer while they waste millions on gambling, on alcohol, on stupidity? She stood up, smoothing her dress. Come, let me introduce you to someone. Chief Emeka was different from what Amina expected. Older, yes, maybe 60, but soft-spoken, almost grandfatherly. He asked about her work, seemed genuinely interested in her nursing stories, and never once made her feel uncomfortable. When he offered to cover her mother's medication costs for the next 6 months, Amina's resistance began to crumble. It's just help, he said kindly. No strings. I have daughters your age. I know how hard young people struggle. But there were strings. There were always strings. They just appeared slowly, like spider silk, invisible until you were already wrapped in them. The second month, Chief Emeka asked her to accompany him to a business dinner. Just for company, he said. I get bored at these things. He bought her a new outfit, something elegant but modest, respecting her discomfort with exposed skin. He introduced her as his goddaughter to his associates. The third month, he asked her to come to Abuja every weekend. The payments increased. 20,000 became 50, then 100,000, then 200,000 monthly plus gifts, a new phone, gold jewelry, expensive perfume. Amina stopped wearing her hijab in Abuja, telling herself it was temporary, that she was just playing a role. Back in Kano, her mother's health improved with better medication. Amina paid off debts. She sent money to the orphanage. She told herself she was doing good with tainted money, that Allah would understand, that desperation justified compromise. "You are glowing," Halima said one day at the hospital. "Did you get a raise?" Amina replied, avoiding her eyes. "Something like that." By the 6th month, Amina had quit her nursing job. There was no point anymore. She made in one weekend what the hospital paid in 6 months. She moved her mother to a better apartment, hired a living caregiver, and started wearing the kind of clothes she used to judge other women for wearing. Zainab was proud. "You're finally living," she said, clinking champagne glasses at another lounge, another evening, another married man's table. "You're finally free." But Amina didn't feel free. She felt like she was drowning in silk and gold, suffocating under the weight of designer labels and lies. She stopped praying. First Tahajjud, then Isha, then all of them. The words felt like ash in her mouth. How could she prostrate before Allah when she spent her nights sitting beside men who belonged to other women? Then Bashir appeared, her ex-boyfriend from nursing school. Simple, honest Bashir who fixed motorcycles and dreamed small, steady dreams. He saw her in Kano one afternoon, climbing out of a taxi wearing clothes that cost more than he made in 3 months. "Amina," his voice was confused, hurt. "What happened to you?" "I grew up," she said coldly, brushing past him. The look in his eyes haunted her for weeks. Not anger, disappointment, like watching someone you loved drown and being powerless to save them. That's when Chief Emeka introduced her to Alhaji Suleiman. Richer, more powerful, married with 4 children, but generous beyond measure. He wanted exclusivity, no other men, just him. In exchange, he'd set her up properly. An apartment in Abuja, a car, a monthly allowance that made Chief Emeka's payments look like charity. "But there's competition," Zainab warned. "Alhaji has options. You need to secure him." The native doctor's shop was hidden in a back street of Suleja, far from the glittering lounges and hotels. The woman who met them wore traditional beads and smelled of herbs and smoke. Her eyes were ancient, knowing. "You want to bind a man's heart?" she asked, studying Amina. "That comes with a price, child." "I'll pay whatever," Amina said, surprised by her own desperation. The woman smiled sadly. "I'm not talking about money, child. I'm talking about pieces of your soul, about doors you open that don't easily close, about spirits that demand payment in ways you can't imagine." "I don't care," Amina whispered. And she didn't. She'd already crossed so many lines. What was one more? The ritual required her hair, her blood, and Alhaji Suleiman's photo. The woman chanted in languages Amina didn't understand, burned substances that made her eyes water, and finally handed her a small leather pouch. "Keep this under your bed. He'll be yours. But remember, what you bind on earth gets bound in places you can't see. And eventually, those bindings strangle." It worked. Within days, Alhaji Suleiman stopped answering other women's calls. He bought Amina a car, a white Mercedes. He installed her in a luxury apartment in Wuse too. He talked about leaving his wife, about starting fresh, about loving Amina in ways his marriage had never allowed. But the dream started immediately. Every night, Amina saw herself drowning, not in water, in hands, hundreds of hands pulling her down into darkness, their grip cold and relentless. She'd wake up gasping, her sheets soaked with sweat, her heart hammering. Then her skin began to change. Small patches at first, dry and grey, like something was rotting from the inside out. Doctors couldn't explain it. Expensive creams did nothing. The patches spread, her arms, her legs, her face. Zainab noticed at a lounge one evening. "Amina, what's happening to you?" I don't know, Amina whispered, pulling her sleeves down. But she did know. Deep in her bones, she knew. The native doctor's warning echoed. Doors you open that don't easily close. Then Zainab disappeared. One day she was fine, laughing and planning their next trip to Dubai. The next she was found wandering the streets of Abuja, barefoot and incoherent, screaming about snakes in her stomach and shadows with her face. They took her to the psychiatric hospital, but the doctors were helpless. Whatever had broken inside Zainab wasn't medical. Amina visited once. Her friend didn't recognize her, just stared with empty eyes and whispered, "They are coming for you too, the debt collectors. They always come." That night, Amina locked herself in her luxury apartment, surrounded by everything she dreamed of, and realized she had traded her soul for things that couldn't save her. The Mercedes sat unused in the parking lot. The designer clothes hung in the closet like accusations. And somewhere in the darkness, something she had invited was waiting to collect its payment.
The scratching started on a Tuesday night. Amina lay in her king-size bed, staring at the ceiling of her Wuse 2 apartment, listening to something scrape against her bedroom door. Slow, deliberate, like fingernails dragging across wood. She told herself it was rats, though she knew better. This building was new, expensive, pest-controlled. When she finally opened the door, nothing was there. But 3 long scratch marks carved into the wood gleamed fresh and deep. "You're losing your mind," she whispered to her reflection in the bathroom mirror. But the woman staring back looked like a stranger, skin gray and flaking, eyes hollow with exhaustion, lips cracked despite expensive lip balm. The patches on her arms had spread to her neck. Soon, no amount of makeup would hide them. Alhaji Suleiman noticed during their next meeting. He pulls back from kissing her, his face twisted with concern, or was it disgust? "Amina, you need to see a doctor, a proper one. I'll pay for anything, London, Dubai, anywhere." "I've seen doctors," she said quietly. "They can't help me." "Then what?" He stopped, his eyes narrowing. "You didn't do anything stupid, did you? Any juju, any of that traditional nonsense?" The silence answered him. His face hardened. "You bound me? You actually bound me?" He stood up abruptly, buttoning his shirt. "Do you know what you've done? My wife has been sick for weeks. My youngest son won't stop crying. My business partner died in a car accident last month, a man who's driven that road for 20 years. And you," he pointed at her, his hand shaking, "you brought a curse into my life." "I just wanted you to love me," Amina whispered. "Love?" He laughed bitterly. "This isn't love. This is witchcraft. This is evil." He grabbed his jacket. "I'm done. Whatever you did, undo it. Or I swear by Allah, I'll make sure every malam and imam in Abuja knows what you are." The door slammed behind him, and Amina crumbled to the floor, her body shaking with sobs that wouldn't stop. She'd lost everything. Her faith, her dignity, her health. And for what? For a man who now looked at her like poison. She called Zainab's number, forgetting for a moment that her friend was still locked in the psychiatric ward. The phone rang and rang, unanswered, a reminder that some prices couldn't be refunded. That night, the dreams changed. Instead of drowning, Amina saw herself standing in a vast marketplace. But instead of goods, souls were being traded, wrapped in beautiful packages, labeled with promises of wealth and power and love. She watched herself from above, saw her younger self reaching for a package labeled "Freedom from Poverty," saw the price tag hidden underneath. "Everything you are." She woke up screaming. The next morning, she returned to Suleja. The native doctor's shop looked different in daylight, smaller, sadder, less mystical. The woman emerged from the back room, unsurprised. "You want to break the binding," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, please, I'll pay anything." The woman studied her for a long moment. "The binding can be broken, but what you've opened, the door between the physical and spiritual, that's harder to close. You invited forces in and they don't leave quietly. I don't care. I can't live like this." The ritual took hours.
Amina had to burn the leather pouch, wash in water mixed with bitter herbs, and recite words that tasted like repentance and ash. The woman chanted, her voice rising and falling like waves, and somewhere in the middle of it all, Amina felt something snap inside her, like a rope being caught, like chains falling away. "It's done," the woman said finally. "He's free, you're free. But the damage to your spirit," she shook her head, "that requires a different kind of healing, the kind I can't provide." Amina stumbled out into the sunlight, feeling lighter, but also emptier, like a house after a flood, the water gone, but the destruction remaining. She didn't go back to her apartment. Instead, she drove aimlessly through Abuja until she found herself parked outside a small mosque in Garaki. Not the grand ones where politicians prayed for show, but a humble building with cracked walls and a handwritten sign, "All are welcome." Inside, an elderly imam was leading Asr prayer. Amina stood at the back, her designer hijab feeling like a costume, her expensive shoes feeling like weights. She tried to pray, but couldn't remember how. The movements felt foreign, the words lost. After prayer, the imam found her crying in the women's section. "My daughter," he said gently, sitting at a respectful distance, "what troubles your heart?" And for the first time in 2 years, Amina told the truth. All of it. The poverty, the temptation, the compromises, the binding, the curse. She expected judgment, condemnation, rejection. Instead, the old man simply nodded. "Allah's mercy is wider than our sins," he said quietly. "You think you are the first person to lose your way, to trade their soul for comfort. The Quran is full of stories of people who strayed and returned. What matters now isn't where you've been, it's where you're going." "But how do I fix this?" Amina gestured at her grey skin, her hollow eyes. "How do I undo what I've become?" "You start by letting go. Everything you gained through haram, let it go. The car, the apartment, the money, give it away, sell it, return it to the earth. Then you rebuild, not the life you had, but the life you were meant to have. It won't be easy, it will hurt, but pain that leads to healing is better than comfort that leads to destruction." Over the next 6 months, Amina did exactly that. She sold the Mercedes, gave the money to orphanages and widows. She vacated the apartment, moved back to Kano, back to her mother's neighborhood. She sold her designer clothes and jewelry, using the proceeds to start a foundation, a safe house for young women being recruited into the Ron's lifestyle, a place where they could find alternatives, education, skills, hope. The grey patches on her skin slowly faded. Not completely. Some scars, the imam explained, were meant to stay as reminders, but enough that she could look at herself again without shame. She started praying again. At first, the words felt clumsy, unworthy, but slowly, like a language returning to someone who'd forgotten it, the prayers became natural again. She began leading Quran study for young girls, warning them about the seductive lies she'd believed, about the price of silk and gold. One afternoon, a year after her return, Bashir appeared at her foundation office, older, more tired, but still himself. "I heard what you're doing, helping girls avoid the mistakes you made. That's brave," Bashir said. "It's the least I can do," Amina replied. "I can't undo the past, but maybe I can prevent someone else's future from looking like it." He smiled, small, sad, genuine. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. The Amina I knew is still in there. She just got lost for a while." They didn't get back together. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. But they became friends, the kind of friendship built on forgiveness and understanding rather than romance. Amina never returned to nursing, but she found purpose in her foundation. Every girl she helped redirect, every young woman who chose education over quick money felt like redemption. Not complete redemption. She knew she'd carry the weight of her choices forever, but partial redemption, incremental healing. She visited Zainab twice a month at the psychiatric facility. Most days, her friend didn't recognize her, but occasionally there were moments of clarity, brief windows when Zainab's eyes focused and she whispered, Did we really think we could dance with darkness and not pay the price? Amina would reply, we thought we were smarter than the trap. We weren't, but at least I got out and I'm trying to help others do the same. On those visits, she'd look at Zainab, brilliant, beautiful Zainab now reduced to fragments and echoes, and remember the native doctor's warning, some prices can't be refunded. Today, Amina runs a modest boutique in Kano alongside her foundation work. She earns enough to live simply, to support her mother, to help others. Her skin still bears faint marks, her eyes still carry shadows, but when she prays now, the words feel real. She tells her story to the girls at the foundation, not with pride, but with warning. She says, money can buy beauty, but it can't buy peace. It can buy pleasure, but it can't buy purpose. And anything gained through darkness will eventually demand payment in ways you can't imagine. Some girls listen, some don't. That's the nature of wisdom. It's rarely accepted until it's too late to avoid the lesson. But for those who do listen, who choose the harder path of patience and integrity, Amina is there, a living reminder that redemption is possible, that healing is real, and that the longest journey is always the one back to yourself.
Moral lesson. There's an old saying, a dancer must know when to leave the stage. In life, we're constantly tempted by shortcuts that promise quick relief from our struggles. But every compromise with our values, every deal we make with darkness, leaves a mark deeper than any physical scar. True wealth isn't measured in designer labels or luxury cars. It's measured in peace of mind, in being able to look at yourself in the mirror without shame, in sleep that comes easy because your conscience is clear. The price of integrity might feel expensive when you're struggling, but the cost of losing it is infinitely higher. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose the harder right over the easier wrong, even when poverty whispers that you have no choice. You always have a choice, and your soul is never for sale, no matter how high the bidder. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and tell